Hey, Sam, guess what?
What?
Goaltending stole 3 out of 4 points for us this weekend.
Yes, they did. All right, Andrew. These two games, y- I, I mean, goaltending was good, but I'm sure you also agree these two games were a little bit hard to watch for different reasons.
Yes, for very different reasons. One was a terrible effort where I think they got lucky to get a point.
Yep.
One was a game where I feel like if the forwards were even halfway playing to their potential, they probably win the game in a landslide. So, tale of two games, but it's nice to see both Freddie and Bussy playing at a level that it's good enough to at least win, assuming the rest of the team does their job.
Yes, I completely agree. So, as always, we have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off your first purchase if you use promo code Caniac Reports, all one word. It's a great deal if you're trying to save money on some tickets. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a rating and a review. It really does help us out. And Andrew, I do want to say one thing. I think recently we surpassed 2,000 followers on X. It's a pretty good accomplishment right there.
Yeah, the our little community is growing. Thank you to everyone who chimes in on the regular. It's great going back and forth with you guys, and yeah, let's keep this ball rolling.
Yes, definitely. And also, just to let you guys know a little bit of a sneak peek of what will be happening during the Olympic break, we're still releasing episodes, but they are pre recorded. In fact, Andrew and I just finished one of the mid season grades that we'll be doing during the Olympic break last night. So you'll be getting that along with a very interesting interview and an episode where we talk about all things trade related rumors. It's gonna be a fun 2 weeks, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, we're gonna be grinding away this week to take a little bit of a break ourselves, but not for lack of content because there is a lot of stuff around this team to talk about.
Yes, there is. So, Andrew, NHL news. There's a few things I want to talk about. One of them, obviously, Wednesday is the start of the roster freeze. And while I don't know if it's true or not, I did hear possibly, and it'd be fun because trades create drama. We might see a few trades between now and Wednesday. And there's obviously one player that we're keeping an eye on because he's a healthy scratch.
Yeah, the bread man seems like he's going to be going somewhere one way or another. It seems like the holdup is really which teams want to offer him a extension. From what I've heard, Carolina is kind of willing to go either way with that. That
Yep.
concerns me a little bit.
It does concern me.
But the more I think about it, I think Panarin is kind of a better version of what the Cans already have. But considering the Rangers weeks ago kind of showed their hand by basically throwing in the towel on the season, they're sitting Panarin out before there's any type of deal done. I think you're going to see the trade maybe not get the return that Rangers fans will be happy about. So, I mean, if the Canes can bring in a guy like a Panarin and not have to give up, say, a Nikishin, but maybe pick some prospects, I mean, the there's worse moves they can make, but I don't think it solves any of the grit or the depth at center concerns.
I completely agree. I would not mind having Panarin. He is a very skilled winger. It's just you and I both know that there is a level of attention that needs to be addressed on that team, and getting another winger isn't one of them. It's that center core.
No, but there is a center who plays on the same team as Panarin who's going to be
Trocheck.
playing at the same time, and that's something I'd be willing to send a haul for. But
I
um,
would too. I'd love to get Trocheck back. He played great for us.
yeah, and a guy who I think just checks a lot of the boxes that this team needs to be checked. Are there better options out there than Trocheck to fix the role? Frankly, yes, but that maybe won't cost you as much as say a Robert Thomas or something like that. Yeah, I think Trocheck will be more um, uh, affordable, for lack of a better term. And if you can package that with Panarin, maybe send a couple of higher end prospects and a couple of first round picks, I'd make that deal right now.
Yeah, I would too. So we'll see how this goes with the drama with Panarin, Andrew. I do think he gets traded before the Olympic break. And I feel like a lot of people are leaning toward that just because he's an actual healthy scratch for the Rangers. Like he ain't playing. Like you can't like I mean, can you imagine he's still on the Rangers team after the Olympic break?
It would definitely be awkward if he has to come back from his vacation and still walk into to the Garden for practice.
Yep.
It's just kind of prolonging the inevitable, and obviously they're going to try to do all their due diligence as they should to get the most value for their assets. But I think I think the Rangers are really trying to. It's a good way to say this. Save their image with the rest of the players in the NHL, because we saw how they handled situations like Trouba, like Gaudreau. So I do think, unlike those situations where guys had protections in their contract that they basically just kind of strong arm their way out of, I think they're trying to do right by the player here in Panarin, which I think that could play to our benefit, assuming he even wants to come to a Carolina.
Yes, completely agree. The next thing, Andrew, is it was announced that the 2027 Stadium Series game will be between Dallas and Vegas and Arlington, Texas. That seems like a pretty good event right there. Two teams that are known to attract players, obviously, facing off.
Yeah, the hockey just continues to grow in the South, and the more of these outdoor series we see happen, and the more of them go off, more or less without a hitch. For as much flack as the NHL gets, and a lot of it is deserved, the way that they've been able to pull so many of these things off down south has been really impressive.
Oh, it really has. I mean, Dallas obviously is an example. I mean, Nashville's a bit of a misadventure, of course, but I mean, obviously Carolina's doing good, and the two Florida teams just playing excellent. And Andrew, I don't know if you saw, but I think right now it's playing right now, but an outdoor game is scheduled for today. But I saw that the I think the Boston Bruin players came out wearing like patriotic gear from like the 1700s. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The Tampa players came out wearing those ugly creamsicle
Yeah.
Bucks jerseys, which, I
Yep.
mean, of all the jerseys that team has had, you went with that one. They should lose based on that by itself. And that's not me just saying this as a Panthers fan, but those creamsicle jerseys were a crime, and whoever made them should still be in jail.
Oh yeah. I wasn't a big fan of those either. But yeah, so obviously not really a lot of news surrounding the Hurricanes. I think most of it right now is trade related rumors, which again we will have an episode for that. Um, Andrew, I mean, obviously we talked about Panarin. I think I saw something that we might be linked to Braden Shin, maybe.
Yeah, he's one of those names that comes up every trade deadline, it seems. Again, one of the I think what should be one of the more affordable options at 2C. I don't think they need a real game breaker there. I think they just need someone who can facilitate the surplus of talented
Hmm.
wingers that this team has. And I think if we're going to talk about the current 2C in Logan Stankoven, I wouldn't long term give up on the experiment with him at 2C, but I think for this year, this postseason coming up, if that's your plan, then I don't think you're taking winning the cup seriously. But he's shown
No.
enough flashes that I think for a 22-year-old player who's having to relearn a role in the NHL, he could still be the long term solution, but short term, it's just not cutting it.
No, it really isn't. You can, I mean, we'll get to the game obviously, but you can say he was part of the reason why Washington tied it up there. Uh, but yeah, so obviously it's the start of a new month, Andrew, and with the start of the month, we usually like to do it. We've been doing it before is do 3 stars of the previous month, so 3 stars of the month of January. Um, you know what? I'll go first on. We'll do. Reveal my number three. You reveal number three. We'll just continue to go up. So I'll go first here because I kind of have an idea. But I would say to me, number three is going to be. I'm going to say Brandon Bussey for number three.
Third star Bussy. All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Even though he missed some time, I think the impact he's had when he's been in the game is still worth the third star of the month. I'm going to go with Ghost. I'm going to give Ghost the third star. Miss some time, but his absence was noticeable and his presence was even more noticeable. So I think it's worth giving him that honor.
Well, I'm glad you say Ghost because my second star is Shane Gossesbear. Because
Well,
again, he I mean, kind of like what you said, like he's noticeable when he's not playing out there, and he's noticeable when he's on.
well, we're gonna just go ahead and trade rankings then, because I think for two, I'm actually gonna put Bussy there. The saga continues. Even tonight, he made a lot of big saves. Didn't face a lot of shots, but the opportunities that the Kings were able to get were almost all grade A. It felt like so. He just continues to play at an elite level. I still can't help but hold a little bit of reservation that this is going to fall off eventually, but it's a really fun ride while we're on it.
Oh, it really is. I feel like our number ones might be the same here. My number one is Svechnikov because
I
I'm
was just
wearing
going to
him.
say the guy you're wearing. Yep.
Yep.
Yep, no, it's the obvious answer. Svech has been playing like the guy we've wanted to see for since he got here. Hopefully he can keep it going. The chemistry he's formed with Aho, I know we've talked about that a bunch, but
Yep.
they've been trying to get that to click since he got here too, and all of a sudden it's working. So not only for this season, but long term, that's a very exciting development because both those guys are still like just kind of entering their prime. So if they can keep clicking, Jarvis keeps working on that line, I think we have a bona fide top line right now.
Oh, we really do. A little bit frustrated seeing them play in the LA game today. We'll get to it, but overall, they've been very, very good. And obviously, not a lot of games this month, Andrew, because of the Olympic break. We only have, and I mean, we already went through one of them with the LA game, but we have
Mhm.
one, two, three. I'm looking at it now for only 5 games play this month. So with there only being 5 games, Andrew, this is a little bit tough to kind of be like, okay, what to expect from this Canes team because 5 games is, I mean, it's not a lot, not small. It's very interesting. I'd say honestly with the amount of games, I'd say if you could win at least 3 of them, I think it'd be a successful month.
Yeah, I'll expand on that a tad and say 7 points. I think 7 points will be a good month. One thing I think we do need to keep in mind, and this is not to make excuses. These guys are paid millions of dollars to not have excuses,
Yes.
but human nature, I think, might kick in here soon. Down the stretch here with the cushion they have in the division, and they are playing against some teams that, and we've seen this the last 2 games actually, teams that are actually still really scrapping for every single point, which you would like to see the Canes still do, but I mean, there's no way these guys don't at least have Cancun in the back of their mind a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped one here or there. But if they're gonna be professionals about it, have their eye on the prize, and really value setting themselves up to be able to rest guys at the end of the season, which we've seen in the past is such a huge benefit, then 7 out of 10 points, I think, is a fair ask for this team.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I mean, I will say one thing. I'm not trying to criticize this team because they're still getting wins and points. It seems like for the past few games now, Andrew, it feels like they're just trying to ride out the string here to the Olympic break. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It seems like it's kind of a revolving door of which players are super noticeable doing that. Because it feels like it's like two or three defensemen and one line really carries the play, and then it's been the
Hmm.
goaltending, both Bussy and Freddie, who, frankly, a lot of y'all got to back off Freddie. Man, he's been stepping up and playing much better. I think a lot of
Yes.
his losses you can blame directly on the guys in front of him. That's not to take away his struggles to start the year, but I think our goalie tandem is pretty nasty right now, all things considered.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not saying that we should get him, but again, the depth can help. But Calvin Pickard got put on waivers. I'm not saying that the Canes should get him, but it'd be nice to have another goalie in the system, you know?
It's a better third option than Caden Primo, or
Yep.
crossing your fingers and hoping that PK comes back and isn't incredibly rusty after a surgery like that.
Yep. And I just think they should keep an eye, at least look at it, is all I'm saying. So, well, let's get to a sponsor, Andrew, and then we'll recap the two games against Washington and LA. Super Bowl 60 deserves a sports book built for the moment. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, puts you right in the center of the biggest game of the year. Anything can happen during the Super Bowl, and DraftKings has your back with early exits. If your player goes down in the first half, you still get paid in cash when your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. While other sports books don't offer injury protection, DraftKings covers the entire first half, even the second quarter. And early exit works on live bets too. Pre-game or in-game, DraftKings has you covered. New to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boo Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right, Andrew, the Washington game. This game, there's a lot to talk about with this game.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. As much as I would love to forget it, I don't. That's been one of the few times since Rod Brind'Amour's been coach where I look at the team from top to bottom and just genuinely question the effort, the intensity. I think they were lucky to get ahead that the way that they were, and then Washington really just showed that they wanted it more.
They really did, and honestly, I haven't seen them play like that since probably the St. Louis game. I thought that was a bit of an ugly one, too.
Yeah, and again, like we were talking about before, it's not an excuse, but that looked like one team that's just trying to get through the rest of the way before they get to go on vacation, and one team looking like they're fighting for their lives a little bit. Um, but still, that's no excuse. Washington's a very good, gritty team. Obviously, they have the familiarity with the Canes, so they know how to muck it up and kind of slow them down. But even more than the loss, just the lack of response in this game was what bothered me. Now they made it up a little bit today against LA, but there were a few things that went down against Washington that you just can't let that stand.
No, you really can't, and we'll obviously get to it. But I mean, you and I both agree the first period probably the best period for the Canes. I mean, like you have two goals from the Hurricanes right there. You have Jankowski scoring from Carrier, and KK, and then you have Aho scoring. And that goal, I mean, I remember it was nice to see Aho scoring, but you can tell John Carlson, that was all on him. He whiffed the puck, and Aho took it from him and was able to score. So, I mean, it was nice getting those 2 goals. It really was.
Yeah, I loved the first goal because it was the most fourth liney tic tac toe goal
Yes, it
I've
was.
ever seen. Great head to heads, a play by KK, great play by Carrier, and Jankowski just continues to really solidify his holding on the 4C spot. But Aho with the heads up play on the forecheck and finally gets a shot to go in. So hopefully that's something that he can build on because he's been playing great. He just hasn't been putting the puck in the net.
Yep. And then in the second period, I mean, we extend that lead to 3-0. Ghost, he does ghost like things and he's able to get it past their uh, AHL goalie because both Thompson and Lindgren are out. And I mean, I will agree. I thought that was a bad goal to let in for Washington, but that was also a perfect shot too from Ghost.
Yeah, the definition of a savable but not bad per se, because I did think Ghost the way that he was able to use the 2 Caps players in front of him as kind of a moving screen, and then just to absolutely paint the near side corner like that. That was just a great shot. He almost did it again tonight. Just that wrist shot he has is so deadly accurate, man.
Oh, it is. But obviously, Andrew, as we know, Washington, they started to come back. You have LaPierre scoring, and he kind of finds the loose puck right there, right behind Anderson. Um, I mean, that goal, I mean, I guess you kind of wish to see that puck not going through Anderson like that. But that's the only, I mean, it's tough because well, I thought Anderson played very good. There might have been a couple goals where he could have. I'll say the third goal he could have saved.
Yeah, I think that's fair. On the first goal, yeah, the puck kind of trickles loose, and I think because it's Freddie, a lot of us are kind of throwing our hands up and saying oh well, here we go again. But that being said, if they add a little bit more intensity around the crease, maybe that puck gets cleared because he definitely didn't do his full job because you want to see him cover it. But I think in a game where our defense core is playing with their normal attention to detail, that puck's getting sent out.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that front. And the second goal, like that's not on Anderson at all. That I mean, the Dylan Strom goal that made it 3-2. That was just a pure defensive breakdown right in front of Anderson. Like you can't blame him on that goal at all.
No, if a guy's gonna one touch shot it right in front of you, then you're just hoping it hits you. Like there's nothing humanly that he could have done there other than get lucky, and he didn't. But again, just the attention to detail we're not used to seeing this team defensively lapse on. We've seen it consistently. They've had problems exiting their own zone, but usually they're pretty
Yes.
good at stopping the initial scoring chance. But in that case, he was wide open in front of Freddie. So can't blame the goaltender for that one at all. And the trend of the guys kind of letting Freddie down as he tries to regain form. And unfortunately, is continuing.
Yep. And another thing that's frustrating too, Andrew, I thought this was kind of part of why the Hurricanes ultimately didn't get the 2 points. They had a golden opportunity. Now, we can talk about officiating all the time. I did not think officiating was good in these 2 games. But
No.
Carolina got a 5-on-3 power play. And
Yep.
you're given a 5-on-3 with more than a minute um, to spare to try and get a goal to widen that lead, you've got to score. And they just did not. And when they did, Andrew, I was like, that's going to come back and bite them. And it did.
Oh, for sure. And even if the 5-on-3 is not going to score, it has to at least create momentum. It has to get them hemmed in, and it did none of that. And when that happens, it actually kind of goes the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And when you factor in, just so we're being honest in our reporting on this, the call that made it a 5-on-3 power play was absolutely bogus. Like the referees were terrible both ways in this game. I think they had worse calls that actually went against Carolina tonight, but I would call
and Taylor Hall. They're going after Taylor Hall.
Yeah, he got mad about being boarded 2 or 3 games ago, and all of a sudden, I guess the league had decided that that was too far or something. I'm not sure what's going on with the officiating lately, and this isn't a topic I like talking about because I feel like
Yeah,
more often than not, it's
beating the
what
dead horse, you know.
beating a dead horse. And I mean, bad calls go either way. And there's something to be said about, okay, you got a tough break. You got to kill it off and you'll get one, especially with how we know this league runs on. It's not really who commits a penalty. It's, okay, well, there's got to be some sort of evenness to it, which I think is an awful way to govern the game, but it's very apparent that that's what they do. And you saw it on a
Yep.
lot of these calls in this game that it was, okay, well, the first interference call was awful, so now we got to have 2 or 3 more just to kind of offset it.
Oh yeah, and in the third period, I'm talking about the events leading up to the game, the tying goal, because this is when controversy comes in, Andrew.
Mm,
And obviously, I mean, Stankoven, he got hit hard, hard by Wilson.
hmm
And that's kind of where the debate lies. Now, I will agree on one thing. After that hit, I think there needs to be a physical response from Carolina. There was none at all. So I was, even though I did not like the hit from Wilson, while I thought it probably should have been a penalty, I was more annoyed with the response after that hit from Carolina. And with the fact that, listen, I love Stankoven. I really do. I understand you got hit, you got bloodied up, but I mean, you just went off your game just trying to pull on a hit. And because of that, part of that led to a goal.
Yeah. The more I've gone back and watched the hit, my biggest issue with it is that the puck wasn't entirely there, but I don't know how.
And he left his feet. I did
And
see that.
yes, it certainly isn't the dirtiest thing I've seen Tom
No.
Wilson do. I think it warranted a minor penalty. Hate to pick on the guy for being short, but if he's taller, then he's not getting hit the way that he did. And also, I don't think Wilson could really tell whether or not he had the puck because just the way the play was going, it looked like Stankoven was going to come away with that. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, if Nick Kishiner's fetch hit somebody doing that same thing, we'd probably be pretty amped about it.
I
So
wouldn't. I actually think that'd be uh, honestly a bad hit, bad dirty hit. But that's just me.
agree to disagree. Just we're also grading it on
Yeah.
on the Tom Wilson range of what he does, which I guess is kind of an issue in itself. Now that you mention it, that I even feel the need to put an
He does
asterisk
have the
next to it.
history.
Oh my gosh, yes, he does. And the big thing I'm sure you've seen is people asking how Brandon Russ got 3 games for his hit and Wilson didn't. I think it warranted at least a 2-minute charging penalty.
Yes,
I
and I'm
think.
happy you brought up Brian Russ because I saw that hit. It's a lot like the Stankoven hit and a
Mhm.
penalty. I just don't understand.
Yeah, no, I don't get how it wasn't called. I don't fully agree that it was the super egregious dirty hit that some people seem to say it was. That being said, it's a 2-minute charging penalty at least every day of the week. But
And
you know,
and I hate the height excuse. I really do because you need to avoid head contact as much as possible. I don't care if the guy is way smaller than you. You gotta try to avoid it.
for sure, or if they're going to call head contact, then they have to call that one. If they're going to call Jordan Martinhook in the next game that we're going to talk about, getting caught trying to dodge someone and then his glove hits a guy in the back of the head when his head's by his waist. Like I don't know, it's the inconsistency that's bothering me.
Yep.
But
And it creates ambiguity too when you factor in height, which I don't
oh
like.
yeah, and it's it's a rough physical game. Things like this are going
It
to
is.
happen. There's going to be hits that result in injury that are completely clean. It's an unfortunate reality of this sport that we love to watch. But when things like that happen, like, do I think players should always have to answer for a clean hit? No. But if you're gonna hurt a guy like that and it's even remotely questionable, like let's say I think my answer was kind of here. Your answer was kind of on the other side. If it's in the middle, anything in that middle ground, there needs to be some type of step up from your teammate, especially when it's one of your smaller guys getting just bulldozed by one of the biggest goons in the league. And when
And
you
the fact
don't,
that he got bloodied too. Like it shows that he actually got hurt. Like I'm sorry. There needs to be some pushback. I'm not saying you go out and fight people. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying, okay, let's get a little bit more physical by just putting on some hits, you know?
something as simple as, all
Yeah.
right, cool, you want to do that to one of our guys, the next time your young rookie goes into the corner, the kitchen, don't maim and injure the guy, but light him up. Like there needs to be at least a little bit of that give and take. Otherwise, we're going to see the continuation of what Florida has been able to do to us the last two playoff series with them, where
Yep.
it wasn't even so much that they were that they were drastically better than Carolina. They were just able to kind of pummel them, and then come game 3, 4, 5, you could just tell that it has a lasting effect.
Yes. But regardless, obviously watching they tie it up. Andrew, I was happy when it got to overtime because I was like, okay, we get a point. I'm not gonna freak out. If uh Hurricanes lose this in overtime. But my gosh, I thought overtime just showed how bad Carolina was. Like it seemed like the ice like went up their skates. It seemed like glued to the ice. They couldn't move at all.
Yeah, it looked like a bunch of guys who wanted to go home. That's what I thought about it.
Like they were just standing there in overtime.
Yeah, no, tough. Just a tough game all around. It's almost worth not reading into too much because it's an effort I don't expect to see from this team too often, and certainly not
Yeah.
in the playoffs. Like that's one thing I have very rarely ever questioned in the entire time that Rod has been here. This is maybe a handful of times that I can think of off the top of my head where this has been an issue. And even though the execution wasn't there tonight against the Kings, I think there was a noticeable pushback in how they played.
Yes, and there was also, I mean, when the last thing I want to discuss about the Washington game, obviously you have Sodriff scoring the overtime. I thought that was the right call. I didn't see any
Mhm.
goalie interference there. I thought there was an obvious push from Taylor Hall. I was like, no, just take the point and get out. So
Yeah. The push from Hall, the fact that it was kind of questionable whether contact was made in the crease or not. Like it really couldn't have been any closer to being in the paint or not. But if you're gonna have a guy on your back, then like that contact was gonna happen regardless. So tough break, but you managed to steal a point in a game where you probably should have lost by a lot more.
yes, definitely. So let's go ahead, get to the LA game. And Andrew, like what you just said a few seconds ago, I do think Carolina played a lot better. There was a lot more effort there, but you can still tell. I mean, I thought this game kind of resembled more of the Whalers night against Utah. Like you can tell the effort was there. It's just there's a lot of mental errors. Lots of them.
Yeah, lots of mental errors and guys just weren't sharp. I mean, I think Jarvis, even on his B game, probably walks away from this game with 2 goals, maybe even a hat trick. And the
Yes.
irony of it kind of was, think about how many times in the playoffs we've, been watching the shots that they take. And it's like, okay, if you guys could just lift your shots a little bit, you're not going to get beat by these butterfly goalies. Tonight, everything was going above the crossbar, so kind of a break from the norm of what we're used to seeing from they can't buy a goal game.
Yes, and I mean LA, like this is a team that, I mean, you can tell their kryptonite is goal scoring. Like
Mm.
they have very trouble goal scoring. You can tell they're very good defensively. But I mean, on the power play, we did score though. Props to the power plays for scoring, even though they scored. Andrew, I think after that the power play was looking rough again. But you have Jordan Stahl with a tip, gorgeous tip, as Svechnikov passes it to him. That made it 1-0. And then I think after that, it started to have that snooze fest written all over it.
Oh yeah, this was definitely a game where if if we don't have a responsibility to kind of comment on everything that happens during the game, this was a great Sunday football-esque nap halfway through it game.
Yep.
It really was. But the power play merchant Jordan Stahl strikes again, and uh, him on that first pair, Jankowski on that second pair. The rest of the guys need to kind of get clicking again. But having those two big bodies in front seems to be paying dividends. Which, I mean, not to critique Rod, but this is one of the things that has seemed kind of obvious for a while that they needed to do.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Second period, really no action. I felt like falling asleep at points,
Mm-hmm.
but also this was frustrating too in the fact that I upgraded my seat, so I was sitting lower bowl right there. Very good seats at the very top lower bowl. Like those are perfect ones.
Couldn't have happened during the Whalers comeback.
I know, I know, I
That's
know.
the way she goes.
Yep, of course, this type of game falls into my lap when I upgrade seats. But obviously, third period it was a bit more eventful for good and wrong reasons. Andrew, you have Nikishin scoring, and it's like thank goodness Nikishin scored because Carolina had so many opportunities to score and they couldn't bury it.
Yeah, they easily should have won this game by multiple goals. But yeah, good on Nikishin for finding that loose puck in the slot, and good on that second line for just creating the chaos to allow it to happen. That's a line I think that's kind of fallen off here lately, and it's the one where I have no doubt they're kind of looking over their shoulders at the trade rumors, because those three guys are the ones that were looking at being like, okay, this is clearly what needs to be fixed. I think all three are very useful players. Hall more so in the now, whereas Stink and Blake are both kind of up and coming, just kind of performing prospects at this point in my opinion most nights. But yeah, that's what they're capable of doing, because all three of those guys, when they're clicking, they're just absolute dogs on bones when it comes to the puck, and that's what created the opportunity for Nikishin.
Yes, even though I would not. Let's see. Here's the thing with when it comes to Taylor Hall, I love the guy. This is not me criticizing him at all, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think at points I'm like, okay, I think he probably needs to be on that third scoring line. Just because I don't think he's a permanent top six player anymore. He used to, and I have mad respect for the dude because he was like a former MVP and all, but he's not that anymore. And I do think like listen, Ehlers, he plays great on that stall line. He does. I'm not saying he doesn't. But how many games has it been out since he scored a goal? What, 5 or 6 games?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just more like, listen, we've seen Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake together before. They've dominated games. And so there's the whole reason why I think Ehlers needs to be up with Stankoven and Blake. And I think another reason too, I just think Carrier fits more on that line than any other player.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. With Carrier, he is looking pretty nasty on that fourth line. I just think he's a great player. I'd be willing to see them give him a shot on the second line at this point. I don't think that should be your long-term solution. But
no,
as far as Ehlers on the third line, big picture, I like that Rod can go into the playoffs knowing that whatever's happening with his top six, whether it's Svech, Jarvis, and now Ehlers, all three of those guys can go on that line and it can work. Because unless they move out a Blake or a Stanko, and there's going to be a logjam in that top six where somebody's got to play down, and I don't think putting them on a fourth line is the way to do it. So you maybe go with whoever can maybe stand to have their game be, simplified a little bit. You put them with the Jordans for a game or two, swap them out for whoever needs the same thing. So big picture, I think it's a good thing, but I think it's proven that it can work, but I think that it's run its course. I think Hall should drop down to either the third or the fourth line, and Ehlers needs to be in the top six, because I think behind Svech, he's probably our best performing forward. Even if
Yes.
he's not getting the points, he's super noticeable, super just so perfect for this system, man.
Oh, he is. I love Ehlers. I mean, we said before he's the more polished version of Martin H's, and
Mm.
like Ehlers, man, like he has so much skill. And this is not to berate Stahl or Martinuk. They play very, very well. I feel like when it comes to the work ethic, Stahl and Martinuk are at the top uh,
Yeah.
of the pecking order. It's just, I also think there's common sense too of just grouping uh skill guys together, because when you do that, like Aho / Jarvis, you know you're going to be getting lots of goals, and that's what we've been getting. So there's just that common sense mentality too of grouping skilled players together.
Right. And, on the flip side, there's something to be said about having scoring options throughout the lineup, but I
Mhm.
don't think any of those guys should be a long-term fixture on that third line. I think it's a useful option that Rod can go to if these lines need a shakeup, because we know in a playoff series by game 3 or 4 that line jumbling, making the matchups work out to your favor. There are scenarios where I think putting a guy like a Jarvis, a Svech, and Ehlers on that line can pay dividends. So it's good that they're working out the familiarity and the chemistry now. But here now, with what we're looking at, I don't think it's what's needed anymore. I think this little 5-game run or whatever it's been has served its purpose. Ehlers can play with those guys. Put Carrier back there so you have your just bona fide energy shutdown line.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it when Carrier plays with Stahl and Mark Nug. Now here's the thing. He plays well regardless of who he's playing with, but
Mhm.
you can tell something special happens when he's plays with Stahl and Marnook. And then I mean, like again, we talk about the eye test. Like the eye test for Ehlers and Jarvis when they play on that line with Stahl and Marnook is great. But when it comes to the stats, the goals fall off. That's just the reality of it. So it's just
Mhm.
one of those things where it's great short term, but long term you can't have it.
Yeah, maybe even, have like a revolving door policy. I mean, this is probably going to change after the trade deadline,
Yep.
because I think that top six, it's a little lacking. I think that this
It's a little
team
bit undersized.
a little bit undersized, could use some grit. The way I look at the roster as it's constructed right now is, I'd say they are a cup contender, but they're in that B tier of cup contender, where
Yes. Mhm.
if everything goes right, if a few guys get hot, if we go against New Jersey and Jordan Martinhook turns into Wayne Gretzky for a week, then they can do it. But as is, they're lacking a little bit. So yeah, Kokoniemi and a bag of pucks for Trocheck and Panarin. Who says no?
I know, right? And I mean, talking about the LA game, like Helenas, he scores for LA to make it 2-1. Like KK was partly responsible for that, for not getting the puck deep. So it's just like he's been playing well recently, but he makes a
Mhm.
play like that.
Yeah, Kokoniemi's definitely been changing a little bit of the mystique around him, which is good for us both if he stays or if he's a trade prospect. But he, he's a guy that, unfortunately, when you make a mistake, you are under a microscope because you have underperformed for such a long time. And this franchise has made, in what now with hindsight being 2020, questionable
Mhm.
choices to give you this opportunity. Again, bringing up Vincent Trocheck, who I think they should have offered him whatever money it would have taken for him to
Yep.
stay, because it's so funny when a guy leaves how some fans take it personal.
Personal. Yeah.
And he's relatively from the area. He was getting offered more money, and I'm sorry, but if you're going to be a famous celebrity athlete, then being in New York, I imagine it's pretty sick. So he got the opportunity. He went there, and for a while it was working out, and now it's not so much. I don't think he would be against coming back here at all. I think Trocheck really enjoyed his time here, and I think that he's probably gonna, have a couple of jokes if he comes back about, us picking KK over him. But hey, that's fine.
Oh yeah, yep. It is what it is. It's all history at this point. It's like, I mean, listen, no management is perfect, but
No.
that was definitely one of the mistakes that they made there. But who knows? Maybe they can correct that with this year's trade deadline.
Hmm.
But back to the game. Obviously, you have Quentin Byfield tying it up, and Andrew, that was frustrating because it's like all these uh chances that Carolina could have buried is now echoing even more in our minds with them tying it up. And I mean, honestly, with that goal right there, just looking at it, like I thought that was just more LA showing how good they are because it was such a great play. It really was.
Yeah, and Byfield is one of those guys who the talent's all there. He hasn't fully arrived to what he's capable of
No.
doing. But when you see him score goals like that, you can see why he was such a touted prospect. But that goal shouldn't have been as impactful as it is. Again, I think, if players like Jarvis and Svetch are on their B game, I think that they have a multiple goal lead at that point.
Yep.
It's unfortunate in terms of like them being able to build on it because we wanted to see a response, both in terms of the quality of play, but also them standing up for themselves a little bit. And I thought, there needs to be more of the second one still, but we definitely saw them respond to what I'm sure was a pretty healthy tongue lashing by the coaching staff after the effort against Washington.
Yeah. Again, we haven't seen it entirely. Maybe we can see it this week. I know we have two more games left before the Olympic break, Ottawa and the Rangers.
Mm.
So, but we get to overtime, Andrew, and then in overtime, you have Aho scoring. So he basically comes in with the puck into the offensive zone, and he gets a pass, Anton Forsberg, to win it. And it's like, thank goodness we won that game. We kind of deserved it a little bit.
Yeah, they absolutely did. They were by far the better team today. They just didn't execute, which I mean, experienced Carolina Hurricanes hockey, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
that seemed to happen a lot. But you know what? Something to build on. Hopefully, someone that the team can rally around. But they have a couple of games left, and then you guys get to take a nice, long, well-deserved break, or get the opportunity to go represent your country that you've wanted to do for your entire life. Which that's got to be so exciting for them to finally get that chance. But finish it strong. Knock on wood for health. If they can at least split these last two games before they go on break, I'll be content.
Yes, I will too. So, another great episode, Andrew, and we will see you guys Friday.